The point is that Shivani has been around for some time, and she's already the face of Lakme and a lot of major brands, and she's a very classical mix between Western and Indian looks. So she actually adapts extremely well. Um, the fact is that she's recognized, she's already, I think she's been cast in a couple of feature films, so she will, hopefully she can act, and if she can act, she'll really go places. Deepika is just been sort of recognized and launched, and she's making a lot of noise. Both of them have huge amounts of potential. Deepika is much more Indian looking than Shivani, so she's much more the classical Indian look. Only thing, she's very tall and strapping. So when she joins movies, she's going to have a problem if she's going to be against the Khans, because she's taller than they are. So they're always going to have a problem with that. So nobody goes around putting packing crates down and standing on it to kiss your heroine if she's kissable, which Deepika is. So otherwise they look like little popinjays jumping up and down, trying to kiss her and come down. So they'll need stilts or something like that with her. So she's always going to have a slight disadvantage as far as the leading stars of our film industry are concerned. But advertising-wise, I think they're both going to do extremely well, because there's very little to choose between the two. One has got a very classical Indian look, one has got a more international look. So depending on the brand that they choose and who chooses to endorse them, they'll both do well. They both of them are, one is handled by an agency. I don't know who Shivani is handled by, to be very honest. I know that Matrix handles Deepika Padukone, and they promote her pretty strongly and pretty this thing. The only disadvantage would be that because they already have a pre-inclination of what their potential might be, sometimes they tend to quote a little too high, and sometimes it becomes impossible to negotiate with them. And if they lose out on some plum assignments, it's going to be because they're a bit expensive, even at this early time in their careers. Now, when I say that in advertising, money isn't everything. It isn't how much money you actually command. It's also the kind of exposure and the kind of campaigns that you actually get to do. So a lot of times you have to mix and match. Sometimes you have great campaigns which can't afford you, but it's good for you to do it because you get terrific exposure, and you get a look and a feel that is even nicer. You get to travel abroad, you get to see a couple of locations, you get to look your best in certain, you look exotic in whatever way it is. So what happens is that it actually enhances your brand image more than anything else. To be associated with certain brands, because those brands are very premium brands, but they need not be very rich brands. So depending on what it is, and depending also on the script that you're expected to do. If it's a press ad, there is no script. But if it's a television commercial, scripts are very, very important, because they either bring out the best in you or they bring out the worst in you, depending on whether you can deliver or whether you can perform or whether you can't. Because sometimes certain scripts require a great degree of acting performance and spontaneity. Now, if you're incapable of that, you end up looking like an idiot. So however pretty you are, however attractive you might be, however sexy you might be portrayed as, if you look like an idiot, you look like an idiot. So both of them should actually be working very hard on their performances, because finally that's the clincher, that which of them can deliver a spontaneous, warm performance in front of a moving camera rather than a still one. And that will determine their futures as models turned film stars, or models as models. Because I believe very implicitly that modeling in this country is only a hobby. It isn't a profession. So it's always been a traditional ground for women, because women get paid more than men do as far as that particular industry is concerned. But even so, it's like marking time before you get married or settle down or do something serious with your life. It's not considered a serious profession. There are lots of models who retired as models and have taken to choreography, or they become VJs, or they become, some kind of brand ambassadors on a non-modeling basis, because they still look good. But frankly, intellectually and career-wise, people consider them lightweights. They consider them bimbos. Now, if you don't want to end up as a bimbo on the fag end of your career, then you better find some career which is linked to modeling, which people take a little more seriously. Because modeling, they definitely don't take seriously.
The face of the ad world, not the comparison front, but just as in who looks better when it comes to ads.
Well, I think in terms of versatility, I think Shivani Kapoor has an advantage as just in an ad world. But as I said, at the end of it, it's performance that's going to be the differentiator. And Shivani's been around, so everybody knows her. Deepika has just come on onto the block. There's a lot of hype around her. So that's a disadvantage because that means that the expectations are very high. So if she doesn't deliver, then there's going to be a lot of disappointment.
Are there three women in Bollywood that you have not made an ad with and you would like to meet?
Three women in Bollywood who I have made an ad with. I have made an ad with Shilpa Shetty. I have made an ad with Sushmita Sen. I have made an ad with who else is there? I've made an ad with everybody else, I think.
So there is nobody who you haven't made an ad with that you would like to meet.
Well, there's Shilpa Shetty and Sushmita Sen.
Okay, and can I ask why?
Pardon?
Can I ask why?
I have no idea. I suppose the clients that I work with haven't yet got them to endorse their products because I work with Pepsi and Sushmita used to work for Coke before she had a problem with them where I believe Coke got up and felt parts of her anatomy which they shouldn't have.
Which products or which brands you would like to associate Sushmita and Shilpa with?
Shilpa with very strong Indian brands, and Sushmita definitely with westernized brands and international brands. Shilpa is a very homegrown, earthy, dancing, sexy Indian woman. I mean, there's no question about it. She's, at her best, Miss Padukone could actually aspire to be like her. But Sushmita has again a much more international look and a more westernized attitude. So she would suit a lot more multinational brands and depends on what it's all about.